Greetings, you are listening to the EA View, and we are discussing Virgo this month. I'm here with my team, as you can see. Welcome back. It's been a few months since we've had a show together, but we are back and we are taking on Virgo because we are in the month of September. I'm so excited to talk about all that we have to share today. So welcome back, Rose and Deva.
Wonderful to be here.
Welcome back, Deva.
All right, we all
have our little power animals with us to support us in the month of Virgo. Virgo is part of the mutable axis. There you go, Deva, Bunny D. And part of the mutable axis that we look at when talking about the daemon archetype, which is a very strong, a strong signature for those souls who connect more deeply or more so to nature, to animals, to plants. And Virgo is such a strong component of that. And our fingerprint today is, as you will see, has strong leanings in that direction. So anyway, before we get started and really getting into the astrology, we're going to have a little fun. And those of you who are listening, I'm sure, have something in Virgo. And something maybe in your sixth house. And Deva, Rose, and I all, as well as Stacie, have strong sixth house signatures, and either a sun in the sixth, sun and Sag, Deva and I both have in the sixth, and Rose has Pluto in the sixth in Virgo. And so we know a little bit about this, right? We really do. But one thing I wanted to share is that back when I was in the EA school, it was so funny because we were being taught Pluto through the houses and signs, and all the Leos in the fifth house Plutos were so excited. You know, whoo, he's coming to the fifth house, he's coming to Pluto, and he spent about this much time on Leo and about time on Virgo. So, you know, anyway, it is the inverted pyramid, I would say, yeah, for Virgo. But so we just really dove in deep. There's so much material on the Virgo archetype, and we won't even be able to scratch the surface, I'm sure. So if you don't have the EA school right now, I highly recommend it, that if you have a lot of Virgo energy, because there's just so much there, so much wisdom. So what I'd like to do with you guys is I would like to know what your favorite energy of the archetype of Virgo, what it is that you love most about this archetype. And I'm just going to start by saying that what I love most about the archetype of Virgo is the natural humility of this sign. You know, they couldn't be, you know, full of themselves if you paid them, typically, probably because we're our own worst enemy. But what's your favorite energy, Rose, about Virgo?
Well, you know that expression that says, if you love what you do, you'll never work another day in your life.
Oh, I love that. I've never heard that.
Well, I have Pluto in Leo in the sixth house.
It's in Leo.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I love my work, you know, and of course, Leo rules the heart as well, too. But, you know, when I probably said this in one of our talks previously, but when I was young and my family was very involved in the church, and there used to be these really big banquets, you know, after the service, and they would serve food. And I just absolutely delighted being in the kitchen and taking of steaming cabbage rolls and potatoes out to the table. I was so proud of doing that. And I was like, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, I don't know, you know, like really, really young. But I think that that's a very, very important point. And when I very early on in my, I ran into somebody reading my chart, and they said, "Oh, you're going to work hard all your life." And at that point, I thought, like, "Oh, I don't want to work hard," you know. But now I think, like, I don't mind working hard. So that's that piece of it. And service is something that I particularly. It's a natural bent. It's something that I absolutely love to do. So. And I think that for anyone who has a practice in astrology, it's such a rewarding way to serve, right?
We are souls in service, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
What about you, Deva?
Oh, for me, my favorite quality of Virgo is that energy of making things better. That it can be so easy to get caught up in what's wrong or faults or lacks or so on, that having an energy of, okay, whether it's a group or whether it's coming into an environment, let's just focus on how can we make things better for yourself and for me. And it kind of eliminates that just the critical quality, or the quality of, oh, everything's so wrong and there's nothing we can do about it. And the feeling of making things a healing energy, of feeling that, yeah, in my own little way, I was somebody, or I tried in my best way to help things improve or to help things heal.
Absolutely. I think one of my favorite ways of expressing the Virgo archetype is that they're souls who want to make the world better than the way they found it.
Yeah.
Right. And if you know you've made some kind of difference, even if it's this much,
Right.
I just want to make it better. My mom was a Virgo, and she taught me that from a very young age. I don't care if we were at a restaurant and you went to the bathroom, she'd be cleaning up the, the sink in the bathroom. She would always, whatever space she went into, wiping it down, and it's just crazy. So, but yeah, you always want to leave the room a little better than the way that you found it, or the space a little better than the way that you found it. All right, so let's talk about what is it that we want to improve within ourselves. I mean, there's so much. Virgos can be very hard on themselves, and I remember even growing up, and if I did really well on a test and I missed one, I'd be focusing on the one that I missed instead of the 99 that I might have gotten right. And I wasn't really that good of a student, but on those those days when I did well. But you get my point. I think it's that energy of focusing, like you said, Deva, what's missing or broken. I mean, it can really bring the energy down. So it's really focusing on what is the glass half full, really needing to learn more, to keep that focus on better things, on where things can grow instead of what's missing. So that's something that I feel like with the Virgo archetype is there is a constant need to work on that. So you're keeping your energy elevated. There's a natural square to Sagittarius, and Sagittarius naturally want to feel optimistic about things. And so you're constantly feeling that square with this archetype.
Right.
What about you, Rose? What do you
Yeah,
think?
that's exactly it. It's the perfectionist piece of it, and self-forgiveness is really important for a Virgo, that nothing is perfect in the universe, and you can't always, you're always going to come back and say, I could have done it better. And that idea is that at some point you have to just let it go, right? Just let it go. And that's very important. It's a very important learning for Virgo.
Absolutely. What about you, Deva?
Right, exactly that. It can always be looking back, and perhaps through retrospect or through the rear view mirror, saying, oh, wow, with having Sun and Sag in the 6, like, I could have really by a mile probably done a lot better there. But then, okay, instead of going back and revisiting that moment over and over again, like, thinking, okay, how about thinking about where it's at now, or the self-knowledge. For me, one of the best parts of Virgo is, as you say, taking it out of that dip from I could have done it better, or kind of holding on to those feelings of self-lack or self-criticism, and saying, well, I got here from that, or here's the self-knowledge that I gained from that. So for me, I'm working on being really analytical at times. Virgo can get real mental and analytical, and working more on that, letting the pieces naturally come together,
Right.
or focusing more on the self-knowledge that came from the Virgo parts.
You know, I have a very, very dear friend who does affirmation. She's written 7 books in affirmations, and she's just pretty amazing person. But she talks about healing, you know, and about affirming, you know, for your physical health, right? And she always says that, you know, affirmations have to be believable. So when you say, you know, I'm in perfect health, you know, or I'm, you know, or what have you, you probably aren't. But she always says that, you know, if you say I'm 1% better today, and I think that that is a really good thing for a Virgo to think about. You know, I've improved, I'm improving day by day, right? And if you can do that, then you can kind of let go of all of that minus column, as I always put it. You know, how you didn't get to wherever you thought you were going to get to. You know, well, I got this far. I got, you know, a little bit of improvement, and that's it's Virgo. It's one step at a time, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you try and do too much in a day, the overwhelm can create the freeze, right? There's just too much. I can't even move right now. I have to share this story, Rose. I might have talked about this on our transit show, but I'm so blown away by this friend of mine that I ran into walking when I was on my way back from a hike. I didn't even recognize her down the street. I hadn't seen her in months because of COVID. She doesn't walk on my street normally. Woman with her dog taking a walk, and she, as she got closer, her hair was long and in braids, which she never wore before, and her hair was usually short, and she had lost a considerable amount of weight in like 5 months. I mean, I literally had no idea who I was looking at from a distance. And I was just taken aback by it. And it felt not just, of course, when you're taking care of your health, whether you're eating better, sleeping better, drinking more water, getting a little exercise. I couldn't even put words to what I was seeing. And I just kept smiling at her and just said, I'm so happy for you. Wow, you're just shining, you know, you're illuminating with health. And you know what she said? She said, you know, Kristin, I just knew I could do better. And so every day I've been doing a little better. And before you know it, in 5 months, you know, there you are, there you are. So, you know, it wasn't some massive thing undertaking she took on. I mean, she made some adjustments, which is a Virgo thing, right? Making adjustments. If you do everything at once, it can be difficult. A list of things that you want to do to be healthy, but Rose, like you're right, that 1% is significant. What Virgos need to feel, progress, period.
Yes.
Progress, some feeling of progress. Even if your room is a mess and you make your bed, you're going to feel better because you just started to chip away at that space. Whatever it is about progress. And if you are improving something and you are progressing and you are moving, then you are feeling better. The other thing too is Virgos need to move. They need to take walks and do yoga or whatever it might be, because the chi energy within the Virgo archetype becomes trapped or stuck. And then that's when we become paralyzed. You know, if we're not allowing that energy to move and to push out any of the drag. So that's another recommendation I have there to help some of those energies that can bring the Virgo side of us down. Now, you may have no planets in Virgo, but you've got planets in a 6th house, like we're talking about. So please make a note of that. And, you know, I'm sure some of this is going to resonate with you. All right. Anything more that you guys want to share before we move on?
Oh, one thing that you also shared with me, Kristin, was about the power of releasing negative thinking and really monitoring the negative thoughts and seeing how, when you're able to shift those or when you're able to purge those, you're in a different spiritual, emotional state. And I know for myself, having Sun in the 6th, when I monitor that, or when I'm really careful about negative thinking, that I feel much healthier, feel much more vibrant, and I feel much more that things are improving or that things are progressing.
Yeah, Jeffrey taught that we are all in a state of becoming. No one is perfect. No one will ever be perfect. Even God is not perfect, because how can a perfect something make an imperfect something? It's not possible. So anyway, that's important to remember, that we're just striving for better, and all of us are in a state of becoming the best versions of ourselves we can be, and to just try. That's Virgo, TRY. Just try a little bit harder every day. Pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and just put yourself in motion in the directions you wish to go.
Virgo is the archetype of the student or the apprentice, right? You know, and it's all about the learning, and how Virgo learns is through an elimination process. Do you know? And that's an important point, because Virgo will beat itself up about making mistakes, making wrong turns, right? And it's not about the mistakes. It's not about the wrong turns. It's not about the waste of time. It is about what you extract, what you learn through the process, because when you learn lessons through Virgo, you learn them very completely, very fully, right?
That's true. All right. Well, we have a wonderful fingerprint today. The reason we started this series to begin with was, I'm sorry, I skipped ahead. How could I have done that? We have a fingerprint coming, but today we want to talk about the signature transit of the month. Of course, every last pretty much weekend of the month, Rose and I do a transit show. If you don't know about that, you can find that through our websites. But we're gonna pinpoint one day of the month today. But before we do, we want to say happy birthday to Sue Hilliard. Sue Hilliard and Robin Grabfelder are two wonderful souls who've been taking over what Linda had spearheaded and had led for so long, the EA Zoom. So we want to wish Sue a happy birthday today, or Virgo.
Yay,
or
happy
Virgo.
birthday, Sue.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you for your service.
Yes, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
So the signature transit of the month, new moon in Virgo on Monday. So excited about this new moon, and Rose, jump in, and we will, Deva and I will comment as well, but looking forward to Monday.
Yeah, so we have a new moon, and a new moon is a new cycle, right? You know, so it'll take us through the majority of the month ahead. And I think after the kind of summer that we've all had, this new moon is just brilliant. So I think that this is excellent. You can see here that I haven't got a pointer, but the sun moon is sitting at 14 degrees of Virgo. Yes, thank you there. And there are 3 trines that are accompanying. So first of all, a new moon in Virgo. So it's a perfect time to get back to it. You know, this is back to it month. And I always feel that Virgo is so well placed in the year, especially for those of us in the northern climate. You know, the season is changing, and we've had this summer, and now we're all ready to get back to work, back to the to-do list, back to school, back to whatever. And I know it's a pretty complicated right now because of the pandemic wave, and you know, students are, you know, it's a little bit tricky there with the back to school. But I do feel that the word adjustment that Kristin used a little while ago, big word for Virgo, that the ability to make the adjustment and to dive right into work and to make good use, I find that this is a very, very productive chart. So you'll see that Mars is sitting at 24 degrees of Virgo, and it's in this lovely trine to Pluto, which is 24 degrees of Capricorn. Pluto is retrograde right now. Just before this new moon, we have Mercury, which in this chart is sitting at 10 Libra, and it has been in trine to Saturn, which is retrograde. And we have Venus, which is sitting at 25 degrees of Libra, and that is in trine to Jupiter, which is in Aquarius, which is retrograde. So that's all 3 of the personal planets in trine to the outer planets, right? You know, so trines are facilitators. They're quite wonderful for taking charge and putting it into action. Of course, trines are going to facilitate. They bring some ease about, you know, getting back into. So I think this chart is very, very productive for doing your cleanup, your fix up, your repair work, your, you know, let's get back to eating right and, you know, making those health improvements, improving whatever habits you need in order to get yourself into a better routine so that you can make productive use of your time. For those who are looking for work, then this looks like a favorable transit for checking things out there. You know, we have more opportunity, more avenues, more, you know, more ability to implement and see some fruits of our labor. Ladies, what would you like to say? Deva, you've got something to add to that?
Oh, yeah, right. And within that, absolutely seeing the Uranus trying to, well, it's a quicker trine, but seeing the Uranus trying to Moon and Sun, as well as that Pluto Mars
Yes.
trine, that there can be a different use of an older tool. So it may have been that the lead up or that prior to this month, there may have been a skill that didn't work before or needed improvement or needed adjustment. And with this Uranus energy, that tool is working in a totally new way, more efficiently. It's been made those adjustments in terms of how to fit or how to help the structure itself improve. Seeing that Mars Pluto trine moving forwards versus getting caught up in that Virgo procrastination or freeze, or gosh, I know what I was feeling was just like, I need to adjust this tool. And seeing this this Mars Pluto trine with that Uranus, it's like, oh, giving us the new insights or helping us adapt those tools for better efficiency.
Yeah, thank you for that. I missed that Uranus Mars, so mentioning that a moment ago. Yes, Kristin.
You mean the Uranus, yeah, trining the new moon.
Yeah.
That's a big one, because the moon is our emotional body, right? And so with Virgo, the mind and the emotions are so linked, right? We can have a thought and it affects the emotions. And so this is literally about changing the groove in your record or changing the frequency of your signal. If your signal's carrying a lot of negative energy or static or doubt, fear, any of that, this Uranus energy can just really remove that static or blow it out of the water. I mean, really kind of rewrite what it is that you're thinking, rewrite the story that you're telling yourself, or even the direction that you're going. And it is such an incredible energy for a breakthrough in your consciousness, in your mindset, in your health. And so I love that you pulled that one out of this chart, because there are so many planetary pairs operating on this day. I'm blown away by it, actually. I feel like every single planet is involved. Now, I always look at the chart in terms of what's working for us and helping us and what's challenging us. And while there's several planetary pairs that are helping us, there's one that is in stress. We always want to have some stress. If we don't have any stress in our day, we probably wouldn't get off the couch. You know, there's like this lounging energy if there's a lot of trines going on. But we've got it, you know, we always need a little bit of a push, right? So Pluto's squaring Venus right now, today, and throughout the weekend, but into early next week on Monday. And so Venus does rule Uranus and Taurus. And so this represents not just an easy breezy, an easy breezy change, something subtle. This is an evolutionary change. This is the potential for a dramatic change with your inner relationship to yourself, starting with looking at the Taurus component. And as a result, this will then directly impact your relationships with other people. And so remembering that just because there's a square there, there's about 5 other planetary pairs that are helping you. So don't not to fixate on that square so much, but to really look at what hurdle do I need to clear within myself? Like, what is it that I need to bring back into balance? Or where can I do better, as my friend said? And so that's important to note. So we've got the sun, moon, new moon, Sun, Moon trine Uranus, Jupiter trine Venus, Saturn trining Mercury, and as Deva mentioned, Uranus trining the Sun, Moon. So, wow, that's a lot.
It's corrective. And I just wanted to mention that here in Canada, we are having a federal election. And the election was called because Prime Minister Trudeau wanted more power and wanted to have a majority government. He's running with a minority government right now. And at the moment, he's getting some pretty harsh lessons in terms of a power grab, So the Virgo archetype, it's corrective, but again, it is about what needs to be corrected as opposed to false application. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a day for new beginnings for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody write down what it is that you want to improve or change, renew, alter, eradicate, pick your word, purge, and ultimately purify, I would say, with the polarity being Pisces. What do you want to purify on your path? What do you want to bring into practice? Do you want to start a meditation practice? Do you want to go longer in your meditations, more regularly? Getting out and about, exercising, moving in some way is just absolutely critical with the Virgo archetype. Connecting more with nature as well. All right.
Excellent.
Nature is my church. That's what this church says, right?
Nature is my church, yeah. And it's about filling in your missing blanks as well, too. What is it that you haven't gotten to yet? It's the time to get at it now. You might find that you have a good momentum with this. Get started, and it might take you further than you anticipate.
Excellent. Yes. All right. So let's move on.
All right. Can we have the next slide?
There we go. Yeah.
Yes.
As I mentioned earlier, one of the reasons we started the EA Talk Show is we wanted to, just talk about the EA paradigm and all different foundational principles that we teach in evolutionary astrology, and find charts that reflect souls who are following what Jeffrey used to call their fingerprint. And no two fingerprints are alike, just like no two souls are alike. And very few souls will not deviate from the fingerprint in order to feel secure. It takes a lot of courage to be who you are when it's not popular. And there's plenty of people that have been very successful in their life, and I'm sure they've experienced a lot of backlash or challenges along the lines. When you put yourself out in the world in some large way, you're going to be open for all kinds of situations where you feel under attack in some way. But they're not just famous people that are following their fingerprint, but we're using more famous people's charts so you can kind of witness this unfold, and you can witness their own unfolding and their own emerging in the world linked with their birth chart. So Rose, will you take it from here? This is Robert Redford, who clearly has a strong, prominent, a sixth house as well as 4 planets in Virgo.
Yeah, unbelievable. 1936, that kind of blows my mind,
Me
so
too. I couldn't believe it.
yeah, so he's getting up there. He's in his 80s now. And it was interesting doing some research on him. He's always been a favorite of mine, I have to say, and Betty White's as well too. Her obsession, Betty White. So Robert Redford, listed as an award-winning American film director, actor, producer, businessman, environmentalist, and philanthropist. He is the founder of Sundance Film Festival, which is it was quite groundbreaking and so forth. So he started his acting career in the 50s, and it wasn't until he put in a good deal of time, about 20 years before he kind of had his breakthrough, 1969 with Paul Newman and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. I think we know a lot about his film career. Let me just see here in terms of his early life. He was, it's interesting because his father was an accountant, and his mother had a great love of the arts and of film and so forth. It says his mother had a passion for literature and films. He was in school. Initially, he excelled at sports, and he got a scholarship to university. So he did very well. He excelled at sports and also had a robust romantic life, it says. He said in other arenas, however, Redford said he floundered. He said, actually, I was a failure at everything I tried. So all of his early jobs he got fired at. And then when he went to university, I became the campus drunk and blew out before I could even get going. Very interesting. He has had a very interesting story. Wouldn't have actually thought about this from him. So at that point, he was expelled from university. And so then he decided to move to Europe, where he lived a very bohemian life and got involved in the arts and culture and so forth. But his interactions with the students in Paris proved to become very significant. We all lived in a communal type of way, and I was challenged politically. I didn't have a clue. They would ask me questions. The Algerian War was going on. It was very big in France at the time. I was humiliated. I was ashamed that I didn't know about my country's politics. When I returned to America a year and a half later, I was much more focused on my country culturally and politically. And so as he started his career, he's super good looking, right? And it's this idea of not wanting to be cast as the pretty boy, which he was in the earlier films, So he ended up becoming very picky about his projects and progressively became, more thinking like with All the President's Men, which was with Dustin Hoffman and about Watergate and so on. He wanted to do more important stories, right, which he did. And he's produced and he's gotten behind the scenes as well too. And then buying the land and starting the Sundance Film Festival, which is international, Sundance Institute, and giving others a chance to premiere, and to do something that was alternate to Hollywood, which was very, typecast and stereocast at the time, which was quite amazing. And the philanthropic that he's done here has been really quite major. He's been involved in many, many different projects and so forth. Another thing which is interesting, he's had long-term marriages, and he's had 4 kids. I think he's had 5 kids. And both of his, he's had three girls and 2 boys, and both of his sons have died. One was, sorry, I've got it here, an infant death, 2-3 months after he was born. And his son just died a couple of years ago at the age of 58 during his Saturn return from liver cancer. So that's kind of a little background. It was quite interesting reading all about his background, because he's quite an interesting character.
I did not know about some of that for sure.
Yeah, it was quite fascinating here. Something else about
So
the
Rose,
yes.
Rosie says, I failed at everything I did.
Yeah, that's a perfect statement for all that Virgo in the 6th house, right? So we see Pluto, is Pluto in Cancer in the 4th house. Notice the nodal axis is Cancer Capricorn, and he has the stellium in the 6th house. So we're going to start with Deva, is going to run us through the Pluto paradigm.
Yeah, thank you for that background. That was so helpful. And so from your guys' estimations too, 3rd stage individuated soul?
Yes, I would put him there.
Okay. Yeah. So looking at Pluto being in Cancer in the 4th house, that emphasizes internalizing emotional security, that relative to the 3rd stage, individuated, and also the South Node being in Cancer in the 4th, that either through, as you were saying, hard knocks, or perhaps with the Virgo energy, that South Node in Cancer in the 4th is ruled by the Moon in Virgo in the 6th, which is conjunct Mercury and Neptune, having brought out notions that were too far outside the mainstream, or were rejected or criticized as being too much a departure from the norm in a general sense, and internalizing that or taking that in as something that either that there was a failure to either bring those out or to communicate those, or a healing around the emotional body and shedding those internalized feelings of failure, and perhaps to a potential looking at the Virgo moon with Mercury and the South Node and Pluto being in Cancer in the 4th, like in the beginning of his life, perhaps a denial or a rejection of his authentic emotional nature, which would then speak to Pluto and Capricorn in the 10th polarity, and North Node in Capricorn in the 10th, like a shedding of that, or by coming into his most authentic role in this lifetime, the role in the world, speaking for the underdogs, or speaking for those who take a stand for unpopular positions. Or I think a beautiful quote by him is, he says, you can tell a seriousness of the actor or of whoever it is by their genuine stay-to-itiveness to whatever principle it is, no matter whether the spotlight remains there or not. Seeing the North Node being in Capricorn in the 10th, with Pluto also in that same house and sign, it's like a natural maturity, or throwing off that sense of having failed, either for not being able to bring out a message that was outside the mainstream. Pluto Mars new phase is moving that forwards. There's a beautiful quote by him that really shares that Pluto Mars are shifting specifically that that energy in a new direction. He says, I have the freedom to take chances, to say no. I have the freedom to be who I really am, rather than have to conform to this or that just to stay alive. So looking at the intentions for this lifetime, it's very much healing that emotional body in terms of what's been internalized from this and other lifetimes, and the checkout Venus Neptune. I failed at everything I did until he was able to grow into his own voice, or grow into his own role, so to speak. And that's ruled by the North Node being in Capricorn in the 10th, being ruled by Saturn in Pisces, retrograde in the 12th. Higher ideals, higher visions, bringing it to closure or culmination. As you were saying, just give it that try in order to connect to a higher purpose, or to heal those experiences of perhaps not being able to bring out that message in other lifetimes. And what's happening for him now in terms of the independent Sundance films, and really, in my view, giving voice for these underdogs, or giving voice for messages that might not be so popular because they're connected to universal truths, or they're connected to a higher cause or purpose.
Excellent. Yeah. I was looking at his chart and wondering, you were talking about the underdog earlier, Deva, and also this emotional body of his that, he's obviously pure emotion with the 4th house Pluto and Saturn and Pisces retrograde in the 12th house. It conditions every other planet in the chart. And while I may not come out and just say, oh yeah, this is a Damon soul for sure, he certainly has some of the signatures for it with the strong mutable axis here, strong 6th house, and then again, that Saturn and Pisces with the Pisces rising. So one of the ways that we describe a Damon soul and their attraction or their link to animals in general, which, you know, he's done a lot of movies with animals, and I know he's very much involved in terms of giving back to the environment and to animal organizations, but is that animals do not have an agenda, right? They're pure emotion, as we always talk about, and he is pure emotion. He comes across as sort of this, you know, ladies' man, or, you know, earlier on, he had all the ladies loving him, but you could feel his emotion underneath the Capricorn North Node, right? He had this beautiful Leonian look about him and this Capricorn kind of, I've got it all together, but you could feel his tenderness, you know, you could just feel it. And so, again, I can't say for sure if he's a Damon soul, but I'm sure he's had plenty of lives close to nature. And very much a lover of animals, and in part because of this, they're being pure emotion and obviously an underdog species. So, and that's showing up pretty clearly here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and the rulers of the nodes, the South Node in Cancer, the ruler is that moon in Virgo, and I can't quite see it on the board there right now, 19 degrees, I think. And the ruler of the North Node, Saturn in Pisces, retrograde in the 12th house. And they are in opposition. They're in a gibbous opposition, which again repeats the Virgo theme. I was thinking through crises comes higher purpose, you know, and that's about, you know, being cracked open, you know, and in the biography that I read here, you know, it was, he talks about the extreme grief of losing his two sons. And the first statement about the first son was that he was never taught to express his emotions. And of course, that certainly is a Moon Saturn opposition aspect. Of course, you know that that Saturn is in the sign of Pisces and it's retrograde and so on. You know, it's in a background house. And you think about the masculine as well, too, right? You know, the conditioned masculine that's been taught to, you know, buck up and so forth. And how, Kristin, you said this a moment ago, how you can just see the emotions out of him. You know, it said that, you know, when he lost his first son, what he did is he poured himself into his acting and was able to use that as a vehicle to express his emotions. And, you know, of course, he's a superb actor, you know, and you can just feel all of that energy coming through, you know, so it's just brilliant. And that Moon Virgo, that Moon Saturn opposition is again a rejection of what would be any kind of consensus-based reality. You know, Pisces is an archetype for film and that kind of industry. And he's rejected being the pretty boy right off the bat, right? You know, wanted to do something more meaningful, something with a message, something with a purpose. And even to have an altar, you know, to be involved in Sundance, which is an alternate, you know, alternate avenue for artistic expression. You know, prior to that, you know, I just think of how Hollywood had it all wrapped up. You know, there was only one way to do film. There's only one, you know, one avenue. If you wanted to be a filmmaker or be involved in films, you had to go to Hollywood, and Hughes gave an alternate voice to things. So, you know, in terms of everything that he has, any limit that he has experienced in life has pushed him to some other kind of level, you know, and that other kind of level has put him in touch with Pisces archetype here his ultimate path, or his ultimate path of service, you know. So it's through each doorway that he's passed, he's, you know, gotten to the next level. You know, I was watching, he was on television not too long ago doing an interview in one of these talk shows with Barbara Streisand, who he did The Way We Were, you know, and that was kind of a,
yeah.
you know, you know, at that time, I remember loving that movie and so on, but it was interesting to watch because there she was on the couch, and, you know, it was Barbara Streisand, who I love as well too, but she was trying to play the role like, you know, okay, where we're flirty and we were, you know, kind of maybe secretly in love during the making of this movie, and he would have none of it. Like none of it. He didn't want to play the game. He wanted to be serious, and he wanted to be taken seriously, and he wanted to talk about serious topics. And, you know, it's an interesting thing with that moon Saturn opposition. It's just at that point of, you know, again, resolving of all the things of the past that you, Deva, talked about as well too, you know. So
one thing, too, I wanted to add about in EA, we always want to answer the question why. You know, why did this happen to him, or why did that happen to her? And so the why, when you were sharing, Rose, about the loss of his two children, if you look at a fourth house Pluto signature, you know, typically there's a real emotional youth within that soul, or a time when the soul may have become emotionally arrested for one reason or another. And especially if you're being grown up during a time in a generation where you're not talking about emotions and allowed to feel certain emotions or to have certain emotions. And so the why becomes, you know, these losses threw him into this grief, of course, because the soul is learning how to access emotion and move it and grow it and mature because of it. So his soul called in those experiences. And the Saturn moon opposition, which, you know, the rulers of the nodes being in opposition, revealing this crisis, revealing this grief, you know, is the very place where he has gotten pinned before. There's this emotional avoidance, right? I want to be taken seriously. I don't want to go there. I don't want to go here. So it's also about, you know, wanting that respect, of course, and wanting to be taken seriously. But within all of that, there has been an avoidance of his emotional body. As much as we can feel his emotion and feel the depth of how who his soul is in that way, there's been a fear around showing the world that, and wearing the heart on the sleeve, even though it does slip out. You know, we do feel it. It's visible, but that is the why he had to experience those losses.
well,
and I find it
I wrote. Sorry.
I find it fascinating that he lost one baby right after they were born, and another one at the Saturn return. Right?
Yeah, that's an amazing thing, considering that Saturn moon, one young and one old, Cancer, Capricorn, one young and one old. I wrote this down about the why. There's no escape for emotional pain, right? And, you know, the escapism, you know, of Pisces is an avoidance archetype, in Virgo's, you know, avoidance archetype. And with the intensity of the nodes being an almost opposition here, it is to go back, you know, to something from the past that was not quite resolved, but it's right at the pivot point here with that almost exact opposition with that. It's fascinating.
I feel like by throwing himself into his acting after that grief was also avoiding, because he's playing different roles, right? He's literally, maybe he's very emotional in those roles, but he may not be dealing directly with his grief when he does that. It's still a form of escape. But it's, you know, to me, it would have been his way of surviving what happened. And it doesn't mean he couldn't grow at all, but there was still that temptation or that instinct to go throw himself into his work instead of really doing the work within himself. So that's, you know, again, that Saturn moon opposition wrong. And this is the point, you know, only he knows if he's done the emotional work. I mean, I don't know for sure, but we can, based on some of the things that he's saying as a result of what he's experiencing, you can kind of get a feel for where, as I said, he's getting pinned.
And, you know, that's also a point, that he might have avoided by pouring himself into his acting. But as we were talking about earlier, it's a stage or a step in the process, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right. I have Lilith in Libra is what I wanted to share a little piece about too. And Lilith, original Lilith, this is not Black Moon, this is the original Lilith. And what this represents in a man's chart, and for a woman, it's how a woman was created by God, your the most empowered place you can be when you're actualizing your nature in terms of the feminine. But for a man, it can be the man's ideal image of a woman. So what he would be attracted to. And Rose, you did mention he had 2 long-term marriages. One of them was from 1958 to 1985. Her name was Lola Van Wagenen. I don't know if Wagenen, I believe. And she was also an environmentalist. And then he married an artist in 2009. Her name is Sybil Zaggers, I believe, Redford. She's from Hamburg, Germany. And a lot of her artwork is on, it's about world natural environments. And so she does a lot of paintings that are connected to nature, but in very, I would say, colors that we don't find in nature, interestingly enough, but very beautiful artwork. And so his second wife had this quote here that says, "Nature is my spiritual connection to life. The I and the world, and nature is my guide and inspiration in creating art." So she's very aligned with nature herself. And I feel like part of his attraction to both of these women, of course, in the first case with Lola and being an environmentalist, focus on improving this earth, and also with his second wife being very involved in the arts as his mother was, and his own love for beauty and for nature and for things to be in balance in that regard. But he was quoted saying, and Deva shared this with me, anytime I saw people treated unfairly because of race, creed, or whatever, it struck a nerve. So his attraction to women who would also have this trigger for injustices or wanting for things to be fair, wanting to make efforts to make things beautiful or improve things, that would, be his draw to women who had a desire and interest in the same arenas that he did and does still. I can't believe he's still alive here in his 80s. But anyway, so that is how I feel this Libra piece is reflected. And just being in relationship with someone who is who feels like an equal will be important, who has their own passions, their own work, and is doing things in the world that he, there's an alignment with what he is. So any thoughts about that position for you guys?
Yeah, that can also be the integration over time of the inner male, inner female, that the roles are co-equal. And it's, I mean, this would be a Mars Leo new phase, that it's within, it's my right to be able to wear my heart on my sleeve, right? It could grow into that. Like, it's my right to show my emotion whenever and wherever I choose. But through that type of relationship, or through establishing that co-equality, or through the type of women that you were mentioning, it's like a toolkit, seeing that Uranus trine Venus, for him to open up, or for him to be able to make those emotions that were avoided revealed to the world in a way that's safe, not flamboyant, Mars new phase, but saying, that I have my own need, and I have my own right to do that for myself too. And for that healing to happen, that I can interchangeably
Totally.
male, female. And so what you both shared, Rose and Kristin, really speaks to that.
Yeah, he would want a strong woman as well. Like, he'd want to play the male and the female in that relationship. He'd want her to take charge and at times, so he could just relax and receive.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
All right, Rose, any thoughts on that?
Nope, I think we've done a great job here.
Hey,
All right. Well, he's lived a
Wait.
very full life.
Mhm.
He's made a great impact on our
He has.
planet.
and can I jump in?
Oh, sure.
Yes. Oh, yes, Stacie.
Hi, people. Sorry. Yeah, so speaking to the Damon signature, one of the things that he, like his whole approach to environmentalism has been storytelling. And we see this Saturn in Pisces in the 12th house. And, and then we have all of the 6th house stuff. And we've got Chiron in the 3rd and Gemini. Storytelling. He wants people to feel the essence of the importance of the environment. And this guy, he's been in my stomping grounds. I live in Utah, and he secured like 5,000 acres just to preserve it. And it's like we've been talking about, he does a lot of movies that kind of speak to the essence of nature, and that really is kind of one of the driving forces within him, is to interest people in the value of nature. I recently learned that his favorite sound is the sound of crickets. And I agree. Like this man he is in tune with nature, and he's done so much for it. And yes, he's fought for the underdogs. That's all in the signature. But we need to to really fully understand Robert Redford. I mean, he's a really, it's like, and Kristin was saying earlier that, there just isn't, with the Damon signature, there's no agenda. You just are who you are. And that is who this guy is. And that's all he wants to share, is just the truth. And he's a truth seeker. I've seen countless interviews with him, and he's just, all he wants to do is tell the truth. And so this is one of the gifts that he has offered humanity, is, we're in this time where we're not really taking the planet seriously. And he's trying to be a voice, and he's trying to tell stories so that people can really feel the essence of the worth of it. And he's doing a good job. So I guess that's just what I wanted to offer.
Thank you so much. All right. Living his fingerprint. Late bloomer, we will say, right, Rose? Really
Yeah.
short. I was like, wow.
Late bloomer and long lasting too.
I like
Yeah.
that. Late bloomer and long lasting. Late bloomer is a Capricorn thing, part of that earth sign. Okay, let's move to the next section here. Deva, take this. This is a Robert Redford film. I've seen it. Probably a lot of you have too. Got my little Crystallion here. Any movie about a horse, I'm on board. The Horse Whisperer, Deva.
Oh, yeah. The reason that I picked this film, it's a message of, as you were saying, Kristin, just to try, and power to the underdogs, or powers to those who you don't think will make it. I mean, it's just this beautiful story embodying nature, and being able to heal really, really massive wounds through the spirit of getting better, or the spirit of trying and giving it your all, and being able to being able to heal from there. One of the most in the movie, what ends up happening is that there's a younger daughter named Grace, and she loves to ride horses, and she sneaks off during winter so that she can ride with a friend. And they're riding their horses up on a hill, and it's too snowy, and the horse gets spooked by traffic down below, so she takes a total tumble on her horse. She totally rolls down the hill. The horse she and her horse almost die, and the argument between then mother and father becomes, well, are we gonna try and save the horse Pilgrim or not? Because thankfully Grace, she's in the hospital, but she just has to have a leg amputation. Like she's gonna survive, so they know that they can pretty much handle that. But the spirit that Pilgrim embodies for Grace in terms of nature and her connection to animals and her authentic emotional nature, and her mom just fights tooth and nail. All the experts are saying, put the horse down, you're keeping him suffering, there's no reason for you to be doing this. Even the dad, and she says, no way in hell. If that horse dies, then a part of Grace is going to die too, and I'm just not going to let that happen. So she's an editor in a high power job, and she ends up running across Tom Booker, the horse whisperer, played by Robert Redford. And she has to talk him into it. She calls him like 30 times. Says, no, I'm sorry. I don't know if I can take this on. And she says, I'm just going to have you try. I'm taking Pilgrim down. You do what you can do. I'm taking my daughter. I will be there tomorrow. Yeah, okay. Shows up with Pilgrim, and they go through a whole healing process. And he just essentially whispers to Pilgrim's soul, and he whispers to Grace. He says, you guys just take it a step at a time, one day at a time. And he gets Pilgrim used to Grace again in terms of trusting people. And he reaffirms Grace that she can ride even with her prosthetic leg. He says, just get back up on that horse, Grace. And in the end, it's incredible. Just through that spirit of trying and through that connection of healing. And he's absolutely in his own kind of way, he embodies the broken spirit, where he kind of embodies that underdog that's helping other people heal, but can't really for himself, right? And he meets Annie. Annie's the mom, and she goes through her own crisis because she's high-powered job and had a big rift with the dad. And so now she's in her, do I make a lifestyle change, becomes very attracted to Tom. And Tom says, well, he says one thing to her about it and one thing only. Very Virgo. He says, Annie, you just need to be sure about what you want before you do anything. You just need to be sure this is what you want. And self-knowledge of Virgo, and it leads to the right thing. Like she ends up recognizing that, that she's not sure it's what she wants, and it creates a heartache from happening. Because that self-knowledge of Virgo. So it's that spirit of just keep trying, of just give it everything, just try. Healing can happen from there, and power to the underdog. He ends up healing through that choices made, that he's happy that he's acting on self-knowledge and able to heal, and vice versa. Instead of recreating a crisis or recreating a wound. Speaks to the power of nature, and to the power of being able to heal what can be called a broken hearts or a broken spirit.
All right, that was a wonderful example. Of course, we needed a Robert Redford film for today, for sure. And I love this. Get back on the horse.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move to our next slide. Thank you, Deva. Okay, this is our only meme today, and I love it. Can we not all relate to this? The best slide, if I ever saw it, the girl howling with her dog.
I do that
She
all
looks
the
like
time.
a Virgo too, even.
It's awesome.
Okay. Next. All right. So my inspirational message today, I'm going to keep it really simple, especially with this new moon on Monday. That is just power loaded. There is power in your soul pursuits, wherever and whenever your intentions are pure. So move in the direction of your desires and not allowing a shred of doubt to enter your consciousness.
Namaste.
Lovely. Perfect.
And we have another slide to share. This is the book, if you don't have it, from all these wonderful contributors that we've had on many of our webinars that Linda Johnson compiled and for all of us, Natural Astrology, Houses, Signs, and Planets. So if you don't have a copy of this, we highly recommend it. And for those of you who don't know about the website, there's schoolofelevolutionaryastrology.com where you can learn more about EA. We have a message board there. You can post questions and you can learn more about the original school that was taught by the founder, Jeffrey Wolf Green. If you want to get a hold of this sacred body of work, here's the website for that. And we will be back next month to discuss Libra. So keep an eye out for that, the first Saturday of October. And thank you so much, Deva and Rose, and to Stacie for us, and Robin and Sue for helping us out in the background. We value you all, and I'm so happy to be back together again.
Absolutely. And
Okay,
thank
happy
you,
new moon,
Robin.
everybody.
Thank you, Sue.
Happy new moon,
Everyone.
Happy
Love you.
birthday, Sue.
And
today.
happy birthday, Sue.
And happy birthday, Robin. She's also a Virgo.
I
Her
know.
birthday was last week.
Oh,
Yes,
sorry.
Oh, happy birthday, Robin.
Another Virgo. See, you were
Yes,
so
indeed.
quiet and humble. We didn't even hear about it.
I know.
That's why I had
you
to bring
go.
it up.
Thank you for bringing it up. Okay.
Yeah.
See.
Thank you all.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.